Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now, we're taking a look here today at LRC, which is Loopring. I've covered this a few times in the past, of course, but it happens to be a pretty big mover here today. And thank you to my community members through my Patreon account that asked me to go ahead and cover this. I really do appreciate you. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate you reaching out. Now, moving forward, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research like you are now, of course. So good for you. And always take ownership of your own trades, right? In other words, I just want you to learn as much as you can from as many people as possible. Don't take what you learn here today and only use that, even though it's very effective for me. I have about an 80% success rate. By the way, I share my trades with my community members. Link in the description below. Check that out through my Patreon account. But I just want you to be, a smart, educated trader and, develop your own style. Takes time, not going to happen overnight. You got to be patient, and hopefully I can help instill that here with you today. One last thing, I do have a Telegram community as well. Check that out, of course. That is a free community, and I have almost 700 members already in the last 3 months alone, and it's growing quite rapidly, and it's a good group of folks. Kind of get in there, ask questions, get engaged. We can all try to help communicate and collaborate. So check that out, of course. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right to it. All right, folks, let's go and take a look at Loopring. LRC. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first, get a baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on, because the two largest coins in the industry really help us understand what is happening in the market. Obviously, today here is a bit of an anomaly. I took a quick peek at LRC a moment ago, and I can tell you it's definitely taking off and doing some things here today. There's a strong chance there's some fundamentals included there, of course, but we'll take a look at the technicals regardless. First things first, I use TradingView.com desktop application. It is the best trading tool that you could probably utilize. Recommend the paid versions. I have a link in the description below for a free month if you'd like to consider that, because it allows you to have more than 2 indicators present at any given time, which is very beneficial because you've got RSI and MACD, and then you're done. You're kind of capped out on the free version. So just check that out, because I utilize at least 2 indicators per time frame, and I have 4 favorite time frames that I utilize consistently. So just something to think about. Moving forward, let's look at Bitcoin first. This is a 4-hour chart, and let's go ahead and take a quick peek here at some of the support and resistance levels. First of all, this is, of course, the 4-hour chart. We've got the simple moving averages enabled. The orange here is the 50, and the 200 is the purple there, trailing behind, both working as support, of course. We also have a support at about 48,000, as well as a resistance at 50,000. Okay, now that's going to be a pretty strong resistance. We'll likely see this channel continue here until the weekday, just so that way, with all the whales and everything happening right now, even though we have a lot of volume, this is kind of an accumulation phase where a lot of people are buying and selling, and that's why it's going sideways more longer than usual. So we should expect to see this probably for at least another 24 hours until the market opens tomorrow. At least, until the whales are present and they start controlling the market and kind of taking it in different directions. My personal opinion is that it'll probably test 50,000, reject and retrace a little bit, but it's hard to say because we do have kind of an ascending triangle pattern forming. It's really early to say that, but generally speaking, that's kind of what's happening for the moment. Bitcoin also has a support level at about 47,000, and secondary to that about 44,000 as well, and then all the way down to about 42.5. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum. A very similar scenario for Ethereum. It just has different support and resistance levels. We lost the 50 here just earlier today, so unfortunately that is working as a resistance now. We've also got a resistance at about 32.50. That normal downswing that happens. BNB is experiencing the same thing as well right now, just based on the fact that Bitcoin's kind of in a state of indecision. Ethereum is selling off a little bit harder than Bitcoin right now at the moment, just based on the fact that it was overextended recently. We've got 2,900 as a major support level, as well as the fact that the 200 is trailing behind as a potential support. And secondary to that, I doubt we're going to have to worry about this, but 2,400 is another support for Ethereum. All right, so let's take a look at LRC. And this has done some things since I last reviewed it. This is the resistance level that I had marked from before at 45 cents. Obviously blew through that. There's a strong chance there was a lot of short squeezed out of their position right here. That's the reason why we probably saw this shoot up the way that it did. But obviously there's other fundamental catalysts that cause this to happen. So bear in mind, you want to do your own research. There's a chance that this coin could have been introduced to other exchanges. That tends to happen sometimes, or just strictly really good fundamentals. I don't know a lot about Loopring personally, because I'm not invested in it, because I always research as much as I can with coins that I invest in. But this is one that's a pretty common, or more importantly, it's more of a popular coin that my community members asked me to cover. So thank you to my patrons, of course, for recommending I cover this. So LRC, let's take a look at the one-day chart first. Obviously, a lot of volume in one day. I mean, if we take a look at that, my goodness, this thing does that. I mean, wow, like pretty much, it's pretty consistent with the volume. It kind of just normal average, but then out of nowhere, it just sharply shoots straight up. Now we saw a big retracement here on May 12th. That was the Elon candle there, as well as this here, 17th of April. Where was that guy? Right here? Yep, that was the first retracement. So, LRC tends to follow normal Bitcoin behavior. In other words, it's kind of trending, as Bitcoin does sometimes. But another thing that's different, though, let's take a look here for its average true range before the 17th of April. It was averaging somewhere between, so the current support is about 45. That's the lowest of its average true range, upwards of about 85 cents, we could say. So 45 to 85, split the difference. 65 is its average true range. And that basically just means that, we still have some room until that happens. And coincidentally, there's already a resistance level at 65. So we'll just go ahead and mark that. That's the next major. So we have to kind of have to respect that level there. There's a few other small ones, but I would say that's more relevant because it's more recent. If you're going to be drawing support and resistance levels, the most recent support and resistance levels are the ones you want to focus on. And that's why I marked that here. Coincidentally, it is exactly at the same average true range, right in the center of what it averaged at before Bitcoin sold off. Okay, now keep in mind, Bitcoin is at 50 to 64,000 back here in April and March, right? So therefore, we get back up to 50,000, there's a strong chance that we're going to start seeing, 65 is perhaps an average price for LRC again. Right, so that's what I like to look at there. But what's also great too, right around the support level I drew previously, actually it was a previous resistance, now it's a support. That is essentially right where the 200-day simple moving average is hovering. Okay. Also bear in mind too, we've got the 50 below that's going to be trending upwards, and this will likely create a, considered as a golden cross, which commonly keeps the price up and shoots it up even further. So that could be another catalyst later down the road. Okay. So just something to note. And looking at the RSI, I'm sure it's overextended. Yes, obviously, upwards of 87. So just bear in mind the price could and likely should go sideways and or retrace some. Because commonly when you see this large of an increase, the retracement is about 50%. So that's the cool thing or interesting thing about this previous support level, or previous resistance rather, now support at 45. That's pretty much splitting the difference of the amount of growth it's had today. So if it does retrace, it'll retrace back down to 45 cents and bounce. That's probably a likelihood. Not saying that it will, but just the common law of retracement for coins, it's kind of how it works. If you look back here, for example, look at how it shot up right here, right? It retraced about 40%, and then eventually after 2 or 3 days, it came down to that 50% mark and kind of averaged out. It went lower because Bitcoin sold off, but that's generally what you see here. So we should see this same kind of pattern, like this, only up here. My speculation is we'll see something like this and be like that, or it could even retrace back down to like that. Again, Bitcoin jumps up past 50,000. I don't think any of that's relevant. I think it'll probably try to test its next major resistance at about, what is it? Again, 65 cents, okay? So bear in mind, pay attention to Bitcoin. That's why we look at it first. If Bitcoin breaks resistance of 50,000, then LRC is a very good long position. It'll probably continue to progress towards that resistance, test it, maybe reject, but it might also break it. But between now and then, if we get sideways action for a few more days and or the price goes down to 48,000, tests the previous support levels for Bitcoin, then we will likely see LRC, kind of average out and lower itself closer to 45 than it is 65. Okay, just something to think about. Again, this isn't foolproof, but there's a good probability of that happening. But man, if you look at volume, that is just insane how much more volume we have in the last 24 hours. Or correction, 8 hours. That's a lot, right? And we didn't even get a convergence here. The price came down and it was trying to diverge rather, and just shot straight up, pretty much bounced. So that's interesting there. Let's see if the 1 hour chart shows that we had an indication on the. Now see, the price has been above the cloud for a while now, so there's really nothing that would have forecast or foreshadowed this increase here today. I mean, had you got in, of course, back here on April 19th, August 19th, sorry, August 19th, then of course you could have, been doing very well right now. Because generally speaking, if you're new to the channel or just the Ishimoku cloud in general, prices above the cloud is considered a buy signal, and it's below it's considered a sell signal. So simply put, had you taken entry back here and there, it would have been an awesome consideration. You'd be at 32 cents, upwards of 52. You'd have like an 80% gain right now. So again, easier said than done, but that's generally the concept there. So always pay attention to that. Let's go ahead and see what TD sequential tells us. Big surprise, we're in extreme overtime right now. So here's something about TD sequential you need to know. If you're not familiar with it, it counts up from 1 to 9 basically. Once it hits 9, it's supposed to retrace and start coming the other direction, or obviously reverse to the upside if it's on a downswing. But in this case here, you see 9 peaked out right there. It did retrace, yes, but then it came in for a second wave. And what usually happens is these first two waves, just these first 2 hours, those are the the bulls, or the the market leaders, the ones that actually control the industry. They're the ones driving the price up, right? And the second wave right here, this is people like you and me FOMOing in and legitimately increasing the price. The sad thing is, normally what happens is when we FOMO in around this point, the price goes down, we all lose out. But thankfully this has continued up. So I would say that if you are long on LRC right now, you may want to consider trimming your position, if nothing else, increasing your stop loss to somewhere in the range of 55 cents, maybe 54 cents, to be on the safe side so you don't lose out. Heaven forbid it comes down, you get stopped out and it goes back up again. You took your profit, and that's the important thing, right? Because this is still a little premature to know what it's going to do next, but I can tell you that, again, the price should come down just based on the natural law of, not gravity, because that's kind of the one we're familiar with, right? Because gravity, what goes up must come down. The same thing here with coins, right? Price goes up too fast, it has to come back down at least, in most cases, 50%, which is why I feel like 45 cents is a pretty strong support level, because if it does come back down, it'll bounce there. So I would say move up your stop losses if you haven't already. Take your profits while you still can. Yes, it could increase again, but there's nothing worse than leaving money on the table and just getting kind of raked over the coals, because yes, it has potential to get back to its average true range. There's no doubt about that. But the fact that we're already in the lower half of its average range from before, when Bitcoin was actually at a higher price point, that's cause for a little bit of concern, right? At least to me. I personally don't like investing in coins when they have higher value now than they did before, when Bitcoin was doing better, right? Again, there are some anomalies out there, of course, ADAs, there's a few others. I think Matic is another one. They're just going crazy regardless. So Solana, of course, they've broken their previous all-time highs, and this could very well happen too. I'm just preparing you and helping you understand that the likelihood of this continuing upwards, I think, is less likely than it is to retrace. So just be careful, be cautious. Take a quick look at EMA and VWAP. No surprise, prices over EMA and both VWAP. So even though that is considered a buy signal, if we look at this this standard deviation there, geez, 13%, and at its highest point was even bigger. So it was up about 22% at its highest point. Because if you're not familiar with the VWAP, as the volume weighted average price, it takes the volume the last 24 hours, expresses it as a price, resets at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every single day, right? So the longer it goes in that trading cycle, the more exaggerated it gets. But the further away from that line, basically this blue line here, that's the volume weighted average price, then the more likely it is to come back down to that point, because it's considered a support and resistance level, but it has kind of a magnetism. In other words, 50 cents should be the average price right now based on the amount of volume in the last 24 hours. However, the price is upwards of 57 cents. That's approximately 12% higher, right? So that's too high, and the likelihood of it coming back down is, again, pretty high. So again, I don't know anything about the fundamentals here, but I can tell you all the technicals are telling us it's not a buy zone right now. It's a take profit scenario right now, and you want to move up your stop loss and consider taking profits while you still can. Yes, it could continue to go back up, and if it does, that's all well and good, but 65 cents will be a major resistance. It's not that far from where you're at right now. You may as well take some of your profits if you can. Maybe consider taking 50% profits, setting a stop limit to somewhere in the range of about 52 cents, because I see somewhat of a support level here, and kind of see what happens, right? So I don't know, when things like this happen, especially on the weekends, it's kind of a strange thing, because the price is being manipulated by you and I, right? Which is what it's supposed to be like. But there's less certainty in that, because when it comes to support and resistance levels, those things are less looked at from people like you and I, of course, because not everyone trades like us, right? So obviously you're here to learn as much as you can and to do this, more effectively. But when people like you and I are just arbitrarily jumping in and don't know much about trading, they just see a price going up and they jump in because of it, that fear of missing out, that causes the market to become manipulated and it changes the dynamic, right? So I try to avoid trading on the weekends almost at all, altogether, just because of that simple fact. Obviously, there's some case in points where you might be able to maximize your benefit, but generally speaking, if you've you got in around 30 cents or lower, be smart, be wise, don't get greedy, and take what you can while you still can. Okay. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, and it continues up on the upside, and this shoots to what they refer to as the moon. It goes stellar on this. That'd be great, but I don't know. I think this is going to get pushed back down, and I don't foresee it coming too much further. Again, if it does continue to go upwards, which is completely normal in this situation because a lot of people are trying to get in while they still can, it'll probably top out at 65 cents and then start to retrace. If it shoots up to 65 cents here in the next 4 hours, then it will definitely retrace and bounce off of that resistance and come, I would say, crashing back down to an extent. But it should test along the way 52 cents and definitely hold strong at 45 cents. Okay, so you heard it from me. I hope I'm wrong. I know this. I know it's frustrating to hear this, especially if you're trying to get in, but just be careful and be cautious, and I hope that it works out either way for you. And I do want to appreciate, say thank you, of course. I do appreciate you jumping in here. Feel free to check out my Patreon account too. I do everything you just saw here today. I utilize that in my trading style, and I share all of my trades with my community members. And we're currently about an 80% success rate. Recommend waiting until the first, of course, because you get the most benefit with Patreon. But generally speaking, check that out if you're interested. And of course, thank you again for watching this far. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Good luck out there. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.